Hello everyone, my name is Talon, or Goatblob if you prefer, and today I'm here to talk to you about a board game that I probably should have made a Halloween special, Betrayal at the House on the Hill. Now this spooky game of tile exploration and card drawing is quite dense, so we'll have to start the review pretty early, but first, I think it may be time for a bit of history.
A bit of history.
Oh, yes. Ah, hello there, young adventurer. It's me again, Sir Goatblob Hasglow. Today we're going to be talking about a relatively young board game, Betrayal at the House on the Hill. I was still an old man when that first came out in 2004. This game was first published by Avalon Hill and Hasbro and is currently in its third edition of print. It was first created by Bruce Glassco. Well done to him and these fine people who helped design the board game. Now, let's see what this is all about, shall we? The house on the hill sits abandoned and has for years. The people in town refuse to go near it and are scared of the darkness that remains in its halls. You and your party of adventurers have decided to venture inside and see what you can find. But be careful. Not all who enter with you may want to see you leave. The haunts in it are deep and dark. May luck be with you in your journey. Wow, sounds quite intriguing. Sounds like an adventure I might have gone on as a young lad. But sadly, it seems like that may be all the time we have for today. So until next time, young adventurers, this has been Goatblob Hawthorne, and good day. Now the first thing we need to do, while talking about Betrayal at the House of the Hill, is actually set the game up. So to start, we'll grab our long hallway tile and place it at the center of our play area. Next we find the upper landing and the basement landing. We also place them apart from our little hallway area. Perfect. Then each player gets to choose their own character. I'm partial to Sammy Angler, but I mean, all of them are pretty good. It's not like I'd get upset if anyone took them or anything. The next thing you need to do is take the cards from the box and separate them into separate decks. Make sure these are well shuffled. You don't want them to just be whatever's come up from the last game. These come with item cards. Oh my goodness, they went everywhere. Omen cards. Event cards. And the scenario cards. You don't really need to shuffle these and put them in a deck because you're kind of allowed to choose whatever they are. These are a bit different from the other cards, and they're how you start the game. We'll come back to these in just a sec. Finally, take all of the tiles that are currently unused and not in the play area, shuffle them up a bit, and place them in a deck off to the side. They're rather thick and unruly, so you might want to make 2 decks actually. Then, take all of the character miniatures that are going to be in use, I'm not sure how well you can see those from there, and place them on the entrance hall. You are now ready to start the game. Actually, playing Betrayal at the House on the Hill is pretty simple. You just take your little character, and based on his speed stat that's located on your character board, you just move him around exploring different rooms. These rooms could be a whole bunch of different things. For instance, I got the laundry chute. I fall into the basement. That doesn't sound good. Most tiles in the game have a symbol on them that corresponds to one of the draw piles. For instance, a spiral shows event cards, a cow skull represents an item, and a raven represents omen cards. Event cards are kind of exactly what they sound like. They're different events that happen throughout the course of your game. For instance, this one says taxidermy. They all have a fun bit of flavor text with them. This one says, an absolutely enormous amalgamation of various animals haphazardly sewn together. You give the thing a shove. Make a might roll. These rolls usually have something to do with the stats that are located on your character board. Failing these rolls usually comes with some sort of punishment, like taking physical or mental damage. Meanwhile, succeeding in them gives you some sort of boost. This one says, gain 1 sanity. All of the event cards are different, and there is a ton of them, so they kind of help to keep the game fresh while you're playing multiple rounds over and over. The next kind of card you could gain are item cards. These are cards that kind of help the adventurers get through the game and defeat the monster at the end. Usually they come with some sort of beneficial stat boost or some extra way to attack monsters. They could be anything from a creepy doll to a time reversing stopwatch. Oh cool, a stopwatch. Oh cool, a stopwatch. Oh cool, a stopwatch. Whatever you get, usually item cards are pretty useful and you want to get as many of them as you can. The final pile you may be drawing from as you explore rooms throughout this spooky house are omen cards, which are the most important. Like item cards, they give you useful items that could increase your stats, or maybe defend you, such as armor, which reduces your physical damage by 1. Hey, that's pretty cool. The only scary thing with them is, after you draw each one, you have to make a haunt roll. And when that happens, you find out just how haunted the house on the hill really is. Now, haunt rolls are actually pretty simple. To complete a haunt roll, all you have to do is count the amount of omen cards that have already been drawn. Then you take 1 die for each of those, sorry little buddy, and you roll them. If you manage to get less than a 5, then wonderful, the game continues as normal. You can find items and event cards. However, if you ever roll above a 5, you may run into some problems. Whenever a 5 or more is rolled during a haunt roll, the haunt begins. Players take a look at the back of their chosen scenario card, the Traitor's Tome, and the Secrets of Survival to find out which one of their friends would gladly stab them in the back for the chance at riches, immortality, or godlike powers. These haunts are different scenarios that you and your friends might face while searching through the house. There are 50 of them in total throughout the game, and they range from anything you can think of from horror movies. It could be anything from killer robots to the whole house secretly being on the back of a giant troll that's now trying to squash you into a fine red jelly. They're kind of where the gameplay actually comes from here on out. You see, now players have a new win condition, as well as the traitor also having their separate win condition. These scenarios are pretty interesting because sometimes they don't have a traitor at all. Instead, it's a free-for-all with every man trying to push and shove their way out the front door, while the other players are simply trying to live. In most cases, the traitor's trying to kill all the remaining heroes. They move their monsters around and deal damage with big dice rolls in an attempt to drop their health to the skull at the bottom of their stat sheet. When this occurs, your character is kinda kaput, and you're out of the game. But don't worry, you still actually have a chance to win as long as your teammates can complete your win condition by the end of the game. When this happens, you can celebrate with everyone else, but if your teammates meet the fate that you did, then, not so much. So now that we know the basics of Betrayal at the House on the Hill, it's time to answer the question, is it actually any good? The spooky theme of Betrayal at the House on the Hill is really quite good, and the mechanics back it up very well. It's pretty neat exploring the different rooms. It really makes you feel like you're going through this haunted house, not knowing what could be around each corner. And the chase sequences really do seem straight out of Scooby-Doo. Occasionally you'll be running from a monster, then your friend decides to pick you up in a mystic elevator that appears out of nowhere. And I'm pretty sure I've seen the same elevator bit somewhere in Scooby-Doo before. The components in Betrayal at the House on the Hill are all very well made, too. The cardboard used to construct the player boards is pretty strong, and the thousands of tokens are all very durable. Avalon Hill and Hasbro also produced an interesting trick in which they were able to make tokens double-sided. So this videotape could also be... could also be a portal. This does a pretty good job of keeping the amount of tokens down from absolutely abysmal to... holy goodness, there is a million tokens in this. Now obviously there's still a ton of tokens to contend with in this game, but it really doesn't even become a problem in most games because you're only using a few at a time. The only real issue could be storage in your game box, which I found a pretty interesting solution to. It's quite simple. Just lift up the black piece holder and put all your tokens in the bottom of the box. Now the only blood token. Now the only complaint that I do actually have when it comes to the components of Betrayal at the House on the Hill, it doesn't actually come from the tokens or the player boards. It comes from these little monsters. The camera probably can't even see it. This thing. These plastic swords are meant to go on your player board to track your stats, and They're quite durable. I'm pretty sure they could survive nuclear attack. The only problem with them? They're impossible to put on the player boards. I mean, not really, obviously I got them on there and it didn't take that long. But my word, I was putting them on, and I chipped 2 of my player boards, not just 1, 2 of them. I'm pretty sure catching a rooster dressed as a butcher would be an easier task than putting these things on without nicking any of your player boards. I don't actually own either of those things or have access to them, so this cutaway is over now. The trick to actually getting them on without damaging anything is pretty simple, but I didn't figure it out until like the 3rd sword I was putting on. You gotta like shove your finger in between the 2 tiny little clamps that it's got, and then put it on the player board. So it's a pretty simple fix, but still rather annoying. Overall, it's not gonna harm the category too much, but just one final thing I wanted to mention. We're gonna give this category a 4.2 for theme and components. I really like the haunted house aspect and how the mechanisms work to make that theme actually happen. And the components are all pretty good, so I think that's a pretty fair rating. Now, the replayability for Betrayal at the House on the Hill is a little hard to pin down. On one hand, there's over 50 haunts in the Traitor's Tome, each of which incredibly different from the last, with differing win conditions and monsters to fight. That's before even mentioning the event and item cards that are all different from the last. So, why not just give this category a 5 and move on? Well, first of all, most of these events and items end up kind of feeling the same after so many playthroughs. I played the game with my group around 6 times over the course of 3 days, which is quite a lot, I'll admit. But eventually the items just kind of felt like, oh, another item. Most of the time we'd draw an item card or an event card, and we wouldn't even need to read the flavor text or the name to know exactly what we were dealing with here. Whether it was a die roll for an event or the revolver for the 48th time. We'd still look forward to the haunts, it's just some parts of the game get a little old. Around this same time, the game kind of lost that feeling of a horror movie or a Scooby-Doo episode. Rather than being a group of daring adventurers who are accidental in their pursuit of this ghost, happening upon it by complete accident, we kind of ended up becoming some sort of veteran ghost-busting squad, where we'd kick down doors just waiting for some ghost to have the gall to try us. And we'd still look forward to the haunts, and it was still an interesting experience. It's just, it changed at some point. We began to get faster and faster at defeating these ghosts and reaching our winning conditions, and it became harder and harder to be the traitor. Please note that what I'm saying here isn't that the game is unbalanced or unfair, that the team will always win. Instead, what I'm saying is, we kind of just became more and more willing to sacrifice our heroes in order to take down one monster or another. Overall, I'm going to give this category a 3.7 on replayability. Fun to replay quite often. If someone asked me to play it right now, I'd probably say yes, but I probably wouldn't play it for the rest of the day. Goodness. As far as the learning curve for this game goes, it's really not all that steep. All you gotta do is learn kind of which symbol represents what kind of card, which they match, and you've got most of the first part of the game down. The only real problem when it comes to kind of the easiness to learn of this game comes from when the traitor is decided. You see, in my group, the problem we ran into is occasionally, the traitor would be decided to be someone who didn't have a lot of experience playing a game where they weren't on a team or were against a group of players. So this player would take the Traitor's Tome, read through it, and then not really know what to do next. Obviously, the Traitor's Tome is pretty dense with information, but even if there's just a little bit of confusing wording in there, they don't have anyone to ask, and I couldn't find any forums that were super helpful online. If you ask one of the players that's on the opposite team, it could ruin the experience for both you and them. Now they know your plan, and even if they don't attempt to abuse that information, they still have it, which is kind of not great. This is kind of off-putting for some new players, as I think being the traitor can be the most fun part of the adventure, trying to take out your friends as they group up as a team. Which is kind of sad. They're missing out on a lot of fun if they pass the turn on to someone else, but Also, they're missing out on fun if they don't get to be a part of the team. It's just kind of sucky. A little bit when that happens. Otherwise, it's pretty good, but that's pretty damaging for new players. I'm gonna give it a 2.5 for this category. The skill and luck balance in Betrayal at the House on the Hill is really quite nice. I forgot the board game. Where is it? The skill to luck balance in Betrayal at the House on the Hill is also quite nice. Having the rooms and the items that you find be completely random really helps to make players that may not be as skilled or experienced with board games suddenly feel like a threat if they find the crossbow and the skeleton key. All of a sudden they can walk through a wall and blast your monster before you even have the chance to let it escape. Heck, they could blast you. Also, another fun bit of luck is the Mystic Elevator. This is a room that you can find which allows you to transport through the floors anywhere in the house, depending on a die roll. If you roll a 1 or a 0, then you'll end up in the basement. A 2 puts you on the ground floor, a 3 the upper floor, and a 4 user's choice. In every game I played, it really played a key part. Suddenly, when you're being chased by a group of baddies, your buddy jumps into the Mystic Elevator and, like he's driving some sort of souped-up minivan, pulls up to your floor and lets you hop in before escaping from everything. It really led to some interesting dice rolls where the whole table was holding their breath, hoping, beyond hope, that you rolled a 0 to go to the basement and help me out. It helps the game to feel fun. And while the luck in this game really makes your heart race, this isn't just some amped up version of Uno we're dealing with here. Strategy makes all the difference. Having a good strategy for your win condition as a team is the difference between cheering as a group as you watch your friend cry? That turned sad quickly. And watching that same friend stand up on the table and start quoting Napoleon Bonaparte. Victory belongs to the most persevering. Creating a good strategy with your team really makes the game feel like you're battling against a strong evil. Watching your friend take their hero and make a great sacrifice to flip one last switch or beat down one last monster really makes the game feel like a story is unfolding before your eyes. And that goes doubly if you're playing as the traitor. Watching the heroes fight tooth and nail just to fall to your well-placed traps and expertly controlled monsters really makes you feel a bit like an evil genius. And it's usually not easy. It takes a bit of trickerish devilry to really get those heroes down before they finish their win condition. Overall, I'm going to give this a 4.2 for its skill versus luck balance. Overall, after totaling up all the different categories, that leaves us with a 3.6 out of 5 stars for Betrayal at the House on the Hill, which is pretty good. I wouldn't say it's a necessity for every board game collection, but I am happy it's a part of mine. Anyways, I'm Talon or Goatblob if you prefer, and thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. A few more things before the video officially comes to an end, by the way. We are still at war, ladies and gentlemen. Goatblob 7 is rallying their troops and plans to march on our kingdom by dawn. We must amass a larger horde in order to survive. Join the horde by pressing the subscribe button, otherwise we'll all surely perish. Also, this video is a bit different from my normal video of game dev. I'm still working on that game as the deadline approaches, but actually let's just check in and see how that's going. I just don't know why it's so hard, dude. It's so hard. Nice. Anyways, I'll be releasing a video on that soon, I guess. I don't know when it's gonna be ready. But I'm probably going to do some more videos like this until the time approaches where I'm ready to make my next game development video. I think that's all I've got. I'm Goatblob. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.